Going back more than 1,000,000 years to a time before human beings lived on this coastline, aquatic weasels, which are now known as southern sea otters, lived in quiet harmony with the natural world around them. Contact with people greatly upset that balance. Sought after for their dense pelts, otters were nearly hunted to extinction in a span of less than 300 years. This is the story of their triumphant resurgence and a cautionary tale of the mounting perils they face today. Life itself seems to awaken with the rising sun. Each new dawn is a blank canvas on which the struggle for survival will be drawn. The geological beauty of this area is surpassed only by its biological allure. Out in Monterey Bay, a vast cornucopia of life comes together in an amazingly diverse natural system, unlike any other on the planet. Humpback whales, pelagic ocean birds, sea lions, and other animals come together daily out in these waters to share a biologically productive environment that provides plenty of food for predator and prey alike. It is a haven for whales these days. Humpbacks in particular have made the bay a favored waypoint in far greater numbers than in previous years. These graceful giants come during the summer for the krill and anchovies as a means to fatten themselves up for the leaner winter months. Traveling and feeding together, they are easily recognizable, even from shore, by their blows and the cloud of seabirds hovering above their feeding sites. The deep underwater canyons, rocky cliffs, vibrant kelp forests are all fed by a large and equally unique estuary. In this diverse ecosystem, one species, more than any other, is the key to balance, health, and the fate of an untold number of other life forms. The southern sea otter is the furry little superhero protecting this fragile Garden of Eden. Shallow, murky water slowly warms with the heat of a lengthening spring day. Silently, a lone female sea otter drifts languidly on her back past a muddy bank. Red-winged blackbirds stand vigil on tall reed stalks, their sharp eyes scanning the sky above for the silhouette of a raptor. Save for the rustling of wind through dry vegetation and the occasional chirp, the cove is quiet. The blackbirds would be the first to sound an alarm in the presence of danger. The otter's eyes are closed. She is relaxed. This is a good area for her. Minutes pass, as does the bank of the marshlands. A wide channel of water begins to narrow. The water, fed by a river, is cooler here. She need not open her eyes to know that she and her tightly held pup are drifting into less open spaces. It's a confluence of slough, inlet, and harbor, an area known to humans as Moss Landing and Elkhorn Slough. There's a slight tug against her. The tide is beginning to pull water from the estuary. The female otter carefully turns her tail, using it as a rudder to guide herself, a vessel of buoyant fur, and slip into a sheltered pool just off the slough's main channel. She'll join a raft of 40 other female sea otters, grouping together for security and warmth. With the orange glow of the rising sun, the female otter hears the distant barking of nearly 100 hauled-out sea lions back in Moss Landing. She knows they too are beginning their day. The female otter has preferences for who she'll stick close to. Finally, she sees an older female, a mother of many pups over the years, and casually guides herself into place alongside the venerable otter. The older one's nose is crisscrossed with scars, the telltale sign of many suitors. This is mostly an all-ladies club, and the only males allowed are the dominant territorial ones. Although male-female bonds are non-existent after mating, mother otters show how deeply the ties of mother and pup truly are. After giving birth, female otters begin a protective, nurturing relationship with their young that can last up to a year when the pup is finally weaned. It's mom's job to provide food for both mother and pup, at least until Junior can keep his rear end underwater long enough to hunt on its own. The slough provides a great natural dividing line between otter groups. The boys' club is up near the inlet at Moss Landing. Here large older males, along with the up-and-coming young males, raft together. Protected from the wind and ocean waves, this spot is the perfect bachelor pad for otters not on the go. These guys are skilled at redefining the art of chilling out. What's remarkable is these males have very recently started to undo 6 million years of anhydra lutris evolution. Many of the males are spending long stretches of time hauled out on shore or sandbars. They are, now, the consummate beach bums. Since otters rely on their fur to stay warm, beaching themselves used to be a rare and short activity. These days, an older male can be seen lying in the same spot for hours, moving so slightly as to make some human observers wonder if they are in distress. For this unique population, it simply means they've found an otterly, easier way to warm up. A drier, warmer climate may be partially to blame. During the past several years, the area has undergone a sustained period of drought, and the average annual temperature has increased at the same time. Climate change may now bring the otter out of the water. Bouncing back from nearly 40 otters to a population today of more than 3,000, all in less than 100 years' time, should come with the flair of drama and excitement known to the pages of comic book heroes. When scientists stumbled upon the last remaining group of California sea otters in the 1930s, they did the unthinkable. They kept the discovery a secret for more than a decade. If not for the effort of a small group of people to maintain the secret, the otters would very likely have gone extinct. A recovery effort, started in the 1950s, has been largely successful. Eventually, groups of otters were translocated to areas that had been historical homes to sea otter populations. One critical area was Elkhorn Slough. However, bringing back the otters had unforeseen consequences. Not only did it help increase their numbers, it restored a dying ecosystem, the largest estuary in California. It turns out the otters were a keystone species for Elkhorn Slough, and in their absence, the estuary had withered to the brink of collapse. The otters not only secured their own survival, but they also saved the kelp forests and restored the health of one of California's largest estuaries, constantly stemming the tide of rampant algal blooms. Because of these feats, they also directly aid the survival of sharks, sea lions, and more than 100 other species. Scientifically, they've earned the title Keystone Species. They are vital to the health of Monterey Bay, Moss Landing, and Elkhorn Slough. Wrap that up in a burrito of furry cuteness, and you have yourself one awesome hero. Though sadly, like all great heroes, they have their weaknesses too. Parasites, natural predators, toxins, and even human beings, a few who poach them for being nuisances, are all challenges facing the otters. Man-made dangers are really the main reason they struggle these days. Prior to being hunted for their dense pelts, fur as dense as 1 million hairs per square inch of otter, their population is estimated to have been in the tens of thousands. It was their fine, dense fur and the money the pelts fetched that caused humans to reduce their number to slightly more than 40 by the start of the 20th century. Today, otters also contend with an amazingly weird parasite introduction from an unlikely source. Sea otters are not directly threatened by feral and domestic house cats. However, many cats carry a parasite that is devastating to the otters. Via cat feces, a parasite called Toxoplasma gondii can infect the otter's brains. The single-celled parasite protozoan can alter behavior, judgment, and even cause death. Toxoplasma gondii likely enters the otter's habitat through runoff like sewers, drainage ditches, or other outfall. Once in the marine environment, it can bioaccumulate through bivalves like clams, a prime food source for otters. The parasite may be the root cause for an increase in otters killed by one of their few natural predators, great white sharks. Shark attacks are on the rise. Why more and more sea otters are coming in contact with the sharks has some researchers puzzled. 25 years ago, great white sharks accounted for roughly 10% of otter mortality in California. Today, that number is closer to 40% and rising. Sea otters are not typically known for ranging far out into the deep, unprotected waters. Their range is typically within 5 miles of shore and close to a protected area, such as kelp forests, shallow coves, or estuaries. Examination after the deaths of shark attack victim otters revealed that protozoal encephalitis was actually the cause of death. The sharks bit, but did not eat the otters. This clue points to the parasite Toxoplasma gondii as the true culprit. Back in Elkhorn Slough, a random sampling by biologists found that a majority of otters tested were infected with the parasite. How much it will affect their recovery remains to be seen, but for now, the otter population is stable. Even if you can't see them right away, you can definitely hear them. Like the sea otters, sea lions also play an important role in the overall health of this ecosystem. And like the otters, they too are threatened by unlikely sources. The sleek brown pinnipeds are best known for their uncanny knack for languid lounging about while hauled out on a dock or shore like logs of fur-covered sea sausages all piled together. Thinking of them as lazy or docile animals is a great injustice. Sea lions, too, are voracious and efficient hunters who chase herring, mackerel, salmon, and other fish. In recent years, due to ecological events made difficult by changes in sea level, temperature, and water composition, sea lion pups have died from starvation in staggering numbers. Mother sea lions are struggling to find prey close to shore, and increasingly this means mortality rates for newborns and yearlings are on the rise. Even when they can find enough food, the sea lions are at risk from another hazard, one that is mostly invisible until it joins with huge numbers of its kind. Algal blooms in the waters along California's coastline have introduced domoic acid toxins into the food web, with smaller organisms ingesting the algae, and then those small animals are preyed upon by larger fish. Bioamplification, the process wherein the toxin's effects move from prey to predator, eventually affecting their nervous system or brain functions. While the red tide toxins do not always kill affected sea lions, it can cause seizures and cause them to become disoriented or lethargic. Recent years have seen massive harmful algal blooms, including one in 2015, which stretched from California to Washington state. That year, rescue centers near Monterey Bay were filled to capacity with patients from both mass starvation and domoic acid toxicity. With the unpredictable nature of red tide, it is likely another massive algal bloom will form again along the California coast. For the sea lions, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. The increasing transport of fossil fuels and other hazardous cargo leaves the estuary just one bad day away from devastation. Pesticide and fertilizer runoff also present potential problems. Pesticides can harm shellfish, a chief source of prey for the otters, and estuary fish eaten by harbor seals. Ingested pesticide chemicals can compromise marine mammal immune systems. Fertilizers are typically high in nitrates. Once they enter the water, nitrates create a perfect fuel for the building blocks of harmful algal blooms. Keeping the otters healthy is important. They are the first best protection for preventing toxic algae from running amok. How do they do this? Well, like most of their superpowers, it starts with their bellies. Sea otters in Elkhorn Slough are great at catching crabs, an estuary delicacy, and luckily for them, there are a lot of crabs to be found. The otter's long, sensitive whiskers can feel vibrations, helping them to easily navigate in the murky slough and giving them an edge on the crabs who would otherwise blend in with their surroundings. The otters eat as many as 400,000 crabs in a year. If the crab population is left unchecked, though, the crabs would eat sea slugs and other invertebrates who themselves feed on algae growing in the dense seagrass. By eating the crabs, the otters leave more slug algae-eating zambonis in play and thereby keep the algae from getting out of hand. Healthy, hungry sea otters seem to be good for everyone. Well, everyone that is, except the more than 50 different prey sources they choose from. Otters will eat clams, crabs, urchins, starfish, and many other invertebrates and mollusks. They are renowned for their ingenuity in using objects as tools to get into the otherwise protected shells and coverings of their seemingly endless buffet. Sea otters are highly intelligent and social creatures. Eating, sleeping, floating around like a furry sea potato. An otter's life may seem ideal, but the challenges they face and those of the marine mammals that share their home may deconstruct their Garden of Eden. With all of the changes taking place in their habitat, there is a new and different world emerging. It may be a much more difficult world for the otters to thrive in, and their miraculous recovery may yet be undone. Sea lions, seals, sharks, even people are looking toward the same uncertain horizon. In the end, we all share parallel destinies, both reliant on the fate of our oceans and our capability to make changes to better our chances for survival. The lingering question of how best to prepare and adapt to a changing world is one faced by all life entering this unprecedented age. What seems most clear is the need to protect the water. Reducing damaging waste, like plastics, from entering the ocean is an important first step. Removing man-made debris from the seas will take longer, but is equally critical. When we think on a scale of this entire planet, which is mostly covered in water, the challenge is truly formidable. However, it is not impossible. Sea otters may be oblivious to the struggles they face. For them, life is about continuing to find food, staying away from predators, keeping their fur clean, raising their young, and finding the perfect spot to sleep in. Still, the otters survived some pretty rough obstacles before. Where there's life, there's still hope. The future is always in motion, and their will, the spirit of the sea otter, is strong. Maybe we'll take our cue from the otters and face the future with paws up.